The asteroid field stretched like a graveyard of stone and silence, each tumbling rock a potential death trap for the UN research vessel Prometheus. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the observation deck, her dark eyes scanning the endless expanse of darkness, punctuated by distant starlight. The ship's sensors hummed with a low, persistent energy that suggested something was about to break the monotony of their deep space research mission. Major Jack Chen approached, his measured steps betraying years of military training. "Anything interesting?" he asked, joining her at the viewport. Elena's fingers danced across the holographic display, recalibrating the ship's long-range sensors. "Not yet, but something feels." Her words caught in her throat as a sudden burst of energy erupted on the distant scanner. A ship, if it could be called that, tumbled through the asteroid field. Its hull was a patchwork of alien metallurgy, scarred and burning with the intensity of a dying star. Behind it, 3 massive warships moved with predatory precision, their weapons charging with an ominous blue-white glow. "Incoming transmission," announced the ship's AI, its voice carefully modulated to prevent panic. "Signal is fragmented. Multiple language protocols detected." Jack's hand instinctively moved to the communication panel. "Can we translate?" Elena was already working, her fingers flying across multiple decryption interfaces. "Partially. It's a distress call, but not like anything we've seen before. Multiple linguistic layers, adaptive encryption. This is advanced." The damaged ship spun wildly, narrowly avoiding a massive asteroid. Its trajectory suggested desperation more than strategy, a vessel fighting for survival against overwhelming odds. The pursuing ships moved with a cold, calculated precision that spoke of a conflict far beyond simple pursuit. "We can't just watch," Jack said, his voice a mix of professional calculation and human empathy. "Those ships will destroy that vessel in less than 10 minutes." Captain Maria Rodriguez, Elena's sister and the Prometheus's commanding officer, walked onto the bridge. Her presence brought an immediate sense of calm, despite the chaos unfolding on the sensors. "We're a research vessel, not a military ship," she said. "Engagement could compromise our entire mission." Elena turned, her eyes blazing with a combination of scientific curiosity and moral conviction. "This is a chance to study an active conflict between unknown species. The data alone could revolutionize our understanding of interstellar dynamics." Jack nodded. "And if we do nothing, we're essentially choosing to be witnesses to a potential extinction." The debate hung in the air, thick with tension. The damaged ship was now close enough for basic visual confirmation. Its design defied conventional understanding. Organic and mechanical elements intertwined in a way that suggested technologies far beyond human comprehension. Captain Rodriguez made her decision. "Prepare for potential intervention. Defensive shields at maximum. Communication protocols set to adaptive mode." The Prometheus began to move, its massive engines generating a subtle vibration that ran through the entire vessel. Elena's hands flew across multiple interfaces, creating translation matrices, analyzing energy signatures, capturing every possible byte of data. "They're using a communication method that's part language, part energy transmission," she muttered. "It's like they're speaking and transmitting structural information simultaneously." The pursuing ships noticed the Prometheus's movement. Their weapons pivoted, creating a momentary Mexican standoff in the depths of space. For several heartbeats, nothing moved except the slow tumble of asteroids and the damaged vessel's erratic flight. Jack's hand hovered near the defensive systems. They could interpret our approach as a threat, or as an opportunity. Elena responded, her voice barely a whisper. The moment stretched, a delicate thread of potential violence, scientific discovery, and unexpected intervention. Humanity was about to make first contact in the most unpredictable way possible, by interrupting a war nobody understood, in a moment nobody expected. Captain Rodriguez's voice cut through the tension. "All systems, stand by. We're going in." The Global Interdisciplinary Research Center buzzed with an electric intensity. Massive holographic displays covered entire walls, each screen flickering with fragments of data collected from the mysterious space encounter. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of a team that represented humanity's most diverse and brilliant minds. To her left, Dr. Amir Khan, a quantum historian, manipulated complex timeline projections. Beside him, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, an expert in xenolinguistics, worked on decoding the fragmented communication signals. Dr. Marcus Williams, a behavioral economist, analyzed resource allocation patterns, while Dr. Sofia Alvarez, a systems theorist, mapped intricate relationship networks between the warring civilizations. "Look at this," Alina said, pulling up a three-dimensional visualization that transformed raw data into a living, breathing representation of conflict. The hologram showed two interconnected systems, represented by swirling patterns of blue and crimson energy, constantly pushing against each other. Each technological advancement by one side immediately triggered a reactive response from the other, creating a perfect feedback loop of escalation. Jack Chen studied the projection, his military background providing a unique perspective. "It's like watching two opponents in an endless chess match," he muttered. But instead of strategic moves, they're just continuously building bigger weapons. Dr. Khan zoomed in on a specific temporal junction. "The fascinating part is how long this has been going on. Based on our initial analysis, this conflict has lasted for over 17 galactic generations. That's approximately 3,200 standard Earth years of continuous warfare." Yuki Tanaka added her insight, her fingers dancing across linguistic mapping interfaces. Their communication protocols suggest the conflict has become so ingrained that it's now part of their cultural DNA. They're not just fighting a war, they've become the war. The team worked in a synchronized rhythm, each specialist bringing a unique lens to the complex puzzle. Marcus Williams began presenting his economic analysis, his holographic charts revealing something extraordinary. "Watch this," he said, projecting a series of resource allocation models. In a typical conflict, resources become scarce, but here, something bizarre is happening. Both civilizations are expending enormous energy and resources to continue the conflict, to the point where the war itself has become their primary economic driver. Sofia Alvarez nodded, her systems theory background providing crucial context. "It's a self-sustaining cycle. The conflict generates technologies. The technologies fuel more conflict. They've created a perfect perpetual motion machine of destruction." Elena zoomed out, showing the full galactic context. The two civilizations, now identified through preliminary data as the Zarn and the Keldori, occupied vast regions of space. Their territories were not defined by traditional boundaries, but by complex interaction zones where their technological and military systems constantly clashed. "This isn't just a war," Elena said, her voice filled with a mixture of scientific excitement and humanitarian concern. "This is a systemic failure of cosmic proportions." Jack approached the main display, his military strategic training providing a different perspective. "In traditional conflict resolution, you identify root causes, resources, territorial disputes, ideological differences. But here, the cause has been lost. The conflict has become its own reason for existence." Dr. Khan pulled up ancient historical records, comparing them with the current conflict patterns. "Look at these early communication logs. The initial disagreement, whatever it was, has been so distorted by time that it's become almost mythological." The team worked for hours, their interdisciplinary approach revealing layers of complexity that no single scientific discipline could have uncovered. They were doing more than analyzing a conflict. They were attempting to understand a fundamental breakdown of interstellar communication and cooperation. As night fell outside the research center, the holographic displays continued to pulse with living data. Elena looked at her team, a group that represented the best of human collaboration, curiosity, and hope. "We're going to break this cycle," she said quietly. "We're going to show them another way." The hologram continued to spin, a delicate dance of blue and crimson, waiting to be understood, waiting to be transformed. The communication chamber resembled a cathedral of technology. Curved walls lined with quantum translators, holographic interfaces, and neural network processors created an almost sacred space of potential connection. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center, her team carefully positioned around her like guardians of an unprecedented diplomatic mission. First contact protocols are nothing compared to what we're attempting, Dr. Yuki Tanaka whispered, her fingers hovering over a complex linguistic matrix. We're not just translating words. We're trying to translate entire systems of thought. Jack Chen monitored the security systems, his military precision balanced by a growing sense of wonder. The encrypted communication channels they had discovered from the damaged scout ship were more than simple communication methods. They were intricate webs of cultural, technological, and emotional data. Dr. Amir Khan adjusted a series of quantum resonance filters. Language is more than words, he explained to the team. It's a reflection of cognitive structure, cultural memory, collective experience. These signals aren't just messages. They're entire universes of meaning. The first breakthrough came unexpectedly. A fragment of communication, initially thought to be random noise, began to take shape. It wasn't a linear message, but a multidimensional information burst that required their most advanced translation algorithms. It's like they communicate in layers, Elena muttered, her eyes reflecting the complex holographic displays. Each transmission is simultaneously a communication, a historical record, an emotional context, and a technological signature. Slowly, patterns emerge. The Zarn communication revealed a culture built on a complex understanding of collective survival. Their language suggested a species that saw individual existence as a temporary state within a larger, interconnected system. The Kildori signals were equally complex, a communication method that blended technological information with what seemed almost like emotional mathematics. They're not just describing their conflict, Yuki said, her voice filled with academic excitement. They're perpetuating it through their very method of communication. Days turned into weeks. The team worked in shifts, each breakthrough revealing more about the depth of the interstellar conflict. They discovered that the war wasn't just a territorial dispute or a resource conflict. It had become a fundamental method of cultural expression, a way of defining existence for both civilizations. Dr. Marcus Williams mapped the economic implications. Their entire economic system is built around the conflict, he explained. Technological development, resource allocation, social structures, everything revolves around maintaining this state of perpetual confrontation. Jack Chen saw the military implications. It's like they've forgotten how to exist without the conflict. The war has become their primary method of communication, of understanding themselves and each other. The breakthrough came during a seemingly routine translation session. Elena noticed a subtle pattern, a recurring mathematical sequence that appeared in both Zarn and Kildori communications. It was a shared linguistic DNA, a fundamental connection that suggested these two civilizations were more alike than different. They're trapped, Elena realized, her voice soft but filled with conviction. Not by each other, but by a system they've collectively created. The conflict isn't just external, it's internal, systemic, existential. The team worked to craft a response. It couldn't be a traditional diplomatic message. It needed to communicate on multiple levels: technological, emotional, historical, and philosophical. Dr. Sofia Alvarez helped design a transmission that was part mathematical proof, part cultural invitation, part technological handshake. We need to show them a different way of existing, she explained, not by arguing or fighting, but by demonstrating an alternative. As the first comprehensive message prepared to transmit, the room held its breath. They weren't just sending a communication, they were offering a key to a different kind of existence. Jack looked at Elena. "Are we ready?" She nodded, her hand hovering over the transmission interface. "We're ready to change everything." The message launched, a beacon of human curiosity, intelligence, and hope. cutting through the darkness of space and centuries of conflict. The adaptive network system looked deceptively simple, a holographic projection of interconnected nodes that pulsed with a soft, living light. It stood in stark contrast to the military-industrial complexes of the Zarn and Keldori civilizations. Major Jack Chen walked around the prototype, his military precision balanced by a sense of nervous excitement. Dr. Elena Rodriguez fine-tuned the final calibrations. "This isn't just a technological solution," she explained to the assembled team. "It's a completely new way of understanding resource management and conflict resolution." The system was designed to be more than a mere algorithm. It was a dynamic, self-adapting network that could analyze complex resource disputes in real time, finding solutions that prioritized mutual benefit over zero-sum competition. Dr. Sofia Alvarez, the systems theorist, had built multiple layers of adaptive intelligence into its core. "Watch how it works," Sofia said, activating the first simulation. The holographic display transformed, showing a complex scenario of resource scarcity. Traditionally, such a situation would trigger aggressive territorial responses, but the adaptive network began to work differently. It didn't just allocate resources, it analyzed the deeper needs, potential collaborative opportunities, and long-term sustainability. Dr. Marcus Williams monitored the economic implications. "Look at how it's breaking down the traditional conflict model," he muttered. "It's not about winning or losing. It's about finding the most optimal solution for all parties involved." Jack understood the military significance. In traditional conflict resolution, you're always preparing for the next confrontation. This system is preparing for the next collaboration. The team had spent months developing a demonstration that would challenge everything the Zarn and Keldori understood about resource management. They would simulate a complex scenario that mimicked the real-world conflicts that had sustained the war for generations. 2 observation chambers were prepared. In one, a group of Zarn representatives would watch the simulation. In the other, Keldori leaders would observe this same scenario. Neither group would know about the other's presence, creating a pure test of the system's capabilities. The scenario focused on a resource-rich star system, exactly the type of location that had triggered countless conflicts between the two civilizations. Historically, such a discovery would have led to military buildups, technological arms races, and potential destruction. As the simulation began, the adaptive network started its work. It didn't just divide resources. It found ways to create value that neither side had previously considered. Potential mining locations were identified that could benefit both civilizations. Technological exchange points were mapped out. Energy distribution methods were optimized to reduce waste and maximize mutual benefit. Dr. Yuki Tanaka monitored the linguistic and cultural translations. "It's not just solving a problem," she observed. "It's creating a new language of cooperation." The holographic display became a living, breathing entity. Resource nodes shifted and realigned, showing potential collaboration points that went beyond simple territorial divisions. The system demonstrated how mutual development could be more profitable than perpetual conflict. Jack watched the simulation with a strategic eye. In military training, we're taught to see resources as something to be conquered. This is showing resources as something to be developed together. Hours passed. The adaptive network continued its work, finding solutions that became increasingly sophisticated. It wasn't just allocating resources, it was creating a framework for mutual understanding. When the simulation concluded, the results were presented to both the Zarn and Keldori representatives. The potential gains were staggering. The resource-rich star system could be developed in a way that benefited both civilizations, with projected economic and technological gains that far exceeded what could be achieved through conflict. Elena looked at her team. "We're not just offering a solution," she said. "We're offering a new way of existing." The technological revolution had begun, not with weapons or force, but with an understanding that cooperation could be more powerful than conflict. The diplomatic chamber was a study in tension. Representatives from the Zarn and Keldori civilizations sat on opposite sides of a massive circular table, their body language speaking volumes about centuries of mistrust. Dr. Elena Rodriguez and Major Jack Chen stood at the center, surrounded by holographic displays that told a story of potential transformation. Initial resistance was immediate and fierce. The Zarn representative, the Global Reconstruction Laboratory, hummed with an intensity that defied traditional scientific boundaries. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a massive holographic display, her team surrounding her like a council of interdimensional strategists. They were about to do something unprecedented, create a comprehensive framework that could transform an entire interstellar civilization's approach to existence. Dr. Sofia Alvarez manipulated complex system models that danced with potential. "We're not just proposing a solution," she explained to the team. "We're designing an entirely new operational paradigm for societal development." The framework they were developing went far beyond traditional diplomatic or economic models. It was a living, adaptive system that could help the Zarn and Keldori civilizations reimagine their entire approach to resources, technology, and mutual development. Dr. Marcus Williams focused on the economic implications. Massive visualizations showed how the current conflict-based economy was actually a form of mutual self-destruction. Resources that could have fueled incredible advancements were instead consumed by perpetual warfare. "Look at their technology development cycle," Marcus pointed out. The holographic display showed a recursive loop of technological advancement driven entirely by military necessity. Every innovation is a response to a potential threat. They've turned technological progress into a weapons optimization algorithm. Jack Chen studied the military implications with a critical eye. His strategic training allowed him to see the deeper patterns of systemic conflict. "It's not just about resources," he noted. "It's about how they've structured their entire concept of survival." Dr. Yuki Tanaka worked on the linguistic and cultural translation layers. Her team was developing communication protocols that could help both civilizations understand each other beyond their current confrontational framework. It wasn't just about translation. It was about creating an entirely new language of collaboration. The reconstruction framework had multiple complex layers. 1. Economic reimagination. A dynamic model that showed how collaborative resource development could yield exponentially greater returns than conflict-based resource acquisition. 2. Technological exchange protocol. A system for sharing technological advancements that prioritized mutual benefit over competitive advantage. 3. Cultural understanding matrix. A comprehensive approach to understanding the deep cultural motivations that had sustained the conflict for generations. 4. Adaptive governance model. A flexible system of mutual decision-making that could evolve with changing circumstances. Dr. Amir Khan, the quantum historian, provided crucial context. "Conflict is often a result of limited perspective," he explained. "We're offering them a way to expand their understanding of potential." Elena Rodriguez connected the various layers, creating a holographic representation of the framework. It looked like a living, breathing entity, part mathematical model, part cultural blueprint, part technological innovation. "We're not imposing a solution," she explained to the team. "We're providing a toolkit for reimagining their entire existence." The most revolutionary aspect was the framework's adaptive nature. Unlike rigid diplomatic treaties or static economic models, this system could evolve. It was designed to grow, to learn, to transform as the civilizations themselves changed. Jack Chen saw the strategic brilliance. "Traditional conflict resolution is about finding a compromise," he noted. "This is about creating an entirely new space of possibility." Simulations began to run. Holographic displays showed potential scenarios of collaborative development. Star systems that were once battlegrounds became centers of mutual advancement. Technological innovations that were once kept secret became shared resources. Dr. Sofia Alvarez watched the simulations with scientific excitement. "Look how the system doesn't just solve problems," she said. "It creates opportunities that neither civilization could have imagined individually." As the day progressed, the team refined the framework. Each adjustment revealed new layers of potential. They were doing more than solving a conflict. They were offering a blueprint for a different way of existing. Elena looked at her team. They had spent months, years working towards this moment. A comprehensive framework that could transform an entire interstellar conflict. "We're ready," she said quietly. The framework was complete, a testament to human creativity, scientific rigor, and an unshakable belief in the potential for understanding. The neutral zone between Zarn and Keldori territories crackled with anticipation. Massive starships from both civilizations hung in space like predators frozen in a moment of potential conflict. At the center of this cosmic standoff, the human diplomatic vessel Prometheus stood as a beacon of unexpected possibility. Major Jack Chen reviewed the mission parameters one last time. Everything they had worked for would be tested in the next few hours. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood beside him, her analytical mind racing through countless potential scenarios. "This is more than a diplomatic mission," Elena murmured. "This is a fundamental challenge to how these civilizations understand themselves." The diplomatic team represented the best of human innovation. Each member brought a unique perspective. Military strategists, linguistic experts, economic analysts, cultural interpreters. They were about to attempt something that seemed impossible, transforming a conflict that had defined two entire civilizations for thousands of years. Communication channels opened. The Zarn representatives appeared first, their crystalline bodies shifting with complex emotional patterns that defied traditional understanding. The Keldori delegation followed, their biomechanical forms a testament to centuries of technological adaptation driven by perpetual warfare. Jack Chen stepped forward, his military precision balanced by a diplomatic approach that went beyond traditional negotiation. "We're not here to mediate," he began. "We're here to demonstrate a completely different approach to existence." The initial moments were tense. Centuries of mistrust created an atmosphere so thick it seemed to distort the very space around the diplomatic vessels. Historical records of conflict played out in subtle communications, unspoken threats, complex territorial posturing, technological displays of potential destruction. Dr. Yuki Tanaka worked on multiple translation layers, interpreting not just words, but entire cultural communication matrices. They're speaking multiple languages simultaneously, she explained to the team. Each communication is a complex negotiation of identity, threat, and potential. The adaptive network system they had developed became the centerpiece of the confrontation. It wasn't a weapon or a traditional diplomatic tool. It was a living demonstration of collaborative potential. Elena activated the first demonstration. Holographic displays showed a comprehensive analysis of the resource-rich star systems that had been the primary sources of conflict. But instead of traditional territorial maps, the display revealed something entirely different, a web of potential collaborative development. "Look at what you've been fighting over," Elena explained. The holographic display showed how the contested regions could be developed in ways that benefited both civilizations. Technological exchange points, shared resource management, collaborative research zones, a completely new way of understanding territorial value emerged. The Zarn representatives' crystalline structures began to shift. The Keldori delegation's biomechanical forms showed subtle signs of recalibration. They were seeing something beyond their established understanding of conflict. Dr. Sofia Alvarez presented the next layer of the demonstration. Complex system models showed how their current approach to conflict was actually preventing technological and cultural advancement. Each military innovation, each territorial defense, each resource conflict was a barrier to their true potential. Jack Chen understood the strategic implications better than anyone. "True strength isn't about destruction," he explained. "It's about the ability to create, to adapt, to grow beyond your current limitations." The most critical moment came with a live simulation. The adaptive network system began to show real-time collaborative scenarios. Resource-rich regions that would have traditionally triggered immediate military response were instead transformed into zones of mutual development. Dr. Marcus Williams highlighted the economic implications. Your current conflict consumes 78% of your total economic output, he revealed. Imagine redirecting that energy into exploration, innovation, collective advancement. As the demonstration progressed, something fundamental began to change. The ancient patterns of mistrust started to crack. The Zarn and Keldori representatives began to communicate in ways that went beyond their traditional confrontational methods. Elena Rodriguez looked at her team. They had done something unprecedented. They hadn't conquered or defeated. They had offered a perspective, a way of seeing that could transform the very nature of conflict. The ultimate challenge was not about winning. It was about showing a different way of existing. As the diplomatic session reached its climax, the entire galaxy watched. Humanity had become more than just another species. They had become a bridge to a different understanding of potential. The Galactic Council chamber stood as a testament to transformation. Representatives from the Zarn and Keldori civilizations sat side by side, a sight that would have been unimaginable mere months ago. Dr. Elena Rodriguez and Major Jack Chen watched from the sidelines, witnessing the culmination of their unprecedented diplomatic mission. The first joint declaration began with a historical acknowledgement. Centuries of conflict had been stripped away, revealing the fundamental connection between two civilizations that had more in common than they ever realized. Technology that was once developed for destruction now found new purpose in collaborative exploration. Dr. Sofia Alvarez monitored the initial stages of reconstruction. The adaptive network system they had developed continued to work, helping both civilizations navigate their new relationship. It was more than a diplomatic tool. It was a living framework for mutual understanding. "We are redefining our existence," the Zarn representative communicated, its crystalline structures shifting with a complexity that suggested deep emotional transformation. The communication was no longer a threat, but an invitation to collaboration. The Keldori delegation responded with equal complexity. Their biomechanical forms, once instruments of perpetual warfare, now pulsed with a different energy. They were learning a new language of cooperation, a method of interaction that went beyond conflict. Dr. Marcus Williams tracked the economic implications. Resources once dedicated to military development were now being redirected to scientific exploration, technological innovation, and mutual cultural exchange. The economic models they had developed showed potential growth trajectories that exceeded anything previously imagined. Jack Chen reflected on the strategic transformation. What had once required military intervention now became a process of collaborative problem-solving. The very concept of territorial defense was being reimagined as mutual development. The first joint scientific expedition launched, a mission that would have been impossible just months earlier. Zarn and Keldori researchers worked side by side, their technological capabilities complementing each other in ways that revealed the true potential of collaborative exploration. Dr. Yuki Tanaka worked on the linguistic documentation of this transformation. It was more than a diplomatic resolution. It was the birth of a new way of communicating, of understanding, of existing. Holographic displays across the galaxy showed the ripple effects. Star systems that were once battlegrounds became centers of collaborative research. Technological innovations that were once closely guarded secrets became shared resources. The very concept of conflict was being rewritten. Elena Rodriguez understood the deeper significance. This was not just about ending a war. It was about demonstrating a fundamental truth about intelligent existence, that cooperation could be more powerful than conflict. The adaptive network system continued to evolve. It was no longer just a tool, but a living framework for mutual understanding. Each interaction, each shared resource, each collaborative project added new layers of complexity and potential. Dr. Amir Khan, the quantum historian, documented the transformation. Future generations would study this moment as a turning point in galactic civilization. Humanity had done more than end a conflict. They had offered a new way of understanding potential. The first joint research projects revealed extraordinary possibilities. Technologies developed independently by the Zarn and Keldori. When combined, created capabilities that neither civilization could have imagined alone. Faster-than-light communication systems, advanced planetary terraformation techniques, complex energy generation methods, all became possible through collaboration. Cultural exchange programs began. For the first time, members of both civilizations could experience each other's histories, technologies, and ways of understanding the universe. The barriers of mistrust began to dissolve, replaced by genuine curiosity and mutual respect. Jack Chen observed the military implications. What was once a constant state of defensive preparation had transformed into a collaborative approach to galactic exploration and mutual protection. The very concept of security was being redefined. Elena looked at her team. They had done something unprecedented. They hadn't conquered or defeated. They had offered a perspective, a way of seeing that could transform the very nature of existence. As the first joint diplomatic session concluded, something fundamental had changed. The cycle of conflict was not just broken, it had been replaced by a new framework of understanding. The human team had become more than diplomatic representatives. They were bridges between different ways of existing, demonstrators of a fundamental truth about intelligent life, that cooperation could be the most powerful force in the universe. The galaxy washed, and everything had changed.